Today is an interesting day because today is Easter Saturday, probably the darkest time in the Christian scene because the form is gone, Jesus has been crucified, but the resurrection hasn't happened yet. And it's interesting that the story should run this way because here is Christ who has performed countless miracles and has all these great powers like walking on water and multiplying the fish and healing the sick. And even as the guards were taking him away to Pilate and the disciples wanted to defend him, Christ told them to chill out because if he could just call on legions of angels to protect him. But it's okay because the story has to run this way. And let's just assume that Christ wasn't just any kind of sloppy yogi, but he really was Christ and he had the whole game in his hands. And his whole life was a testament of pure love, including his death. But then the question arises, why would he leave the whole scene hanging after his crucifixion? He could have done anything. He could have chosen to take a subtle body and appear in the crowd as he was crucified on the cross and just appear there and just clap everybody. Or he knows a yogi is not his body. He could have just stick out his tongue and say, "BBB, you're not gonna get me," and ascend to heaven right there. He could have done any number of up-leveling to the scene, but no, he decided to leave the whole scene hanging, just like that, and let his disciples disperse, and let his mother go through great agony, and let all these people who loved him so dearly go through immense pain. And how come that Christ, whose whole life was a statement of pure unconditional love, intentionally, consciously let the people who loved him suffer? What is that about? What is this day about, this Easter Saturday? How come that here was Christ who had the whole game in his hands? He could have done anything, but no. And my question is that, is there a chance that this was an act of grace? That he intentionally let his loved ones suffer as an act of grace? And maybe this period, this dark night, this Easter Saturday, is not a mistake, but was a conscious act of love. And the reason why this should preoccupy us at this time is because all of us have this challenge of interpreting our suffering. We all have moments where we lose faith, we doubt, we are confused, we are depressed, we feel lonely. Not all of us and not all the time, but we do all have these moments. And it's very scary because everything is light and happy and joyful, and then suddenly, bam, life becomes heavy and things don't make sense. And there's confusion and there's emptiness. And what happens to us is what happened to the disciples, that they got hooked on their method. They met this great being, this great yogi with all these powers, and he split. And there you are. The prophet just died. And what now? If you're a meditator, suddenly meditation becomes dry. Chanting to Hare Krishna doesn't work anymore. If you are a smoker, maybe you can't get weed. If you're a surfer, you can't go out and surf. If you're in a relationship, you and your partner just broke up. And any form that you invest yourself into has in it suffering, it seems like. Because it's going to pass, eventually. And once it passes, you're gonna be left to your own resources. What you gonna do? What the meditator's gonna do when he can't meditate? What is the surfer gonna do when he can't surf? What are you gonna do when your girlfriend leaves you? And here you are alone. What happens when you're completely left to your own resources, without any clinging to any support, without any way to get yourself there, to get high? Mother Teresa had this line that I have been sitting with, saying that suffering, pain, depression, loneliness is nothing but the kiss of Jesus. And it's an interesting thing to say, because what that means to me in this moment is that when the form is gone, when your method of getting high doesn't work anymore, when you split, when you've fallen out of grace, when you lose faith, when you doubt, everything that was holding you is gone, and you find yourself completely left to your own resources, with nothing to hold on to. And I think that this is the moment when you have the chance to discover that which is beyond form. And we could call that awareness, or harmony, or spaciousness, kinda still, silent presence. You could call it the heart of Allah, or Krishna consciousness, or the Buddha mind, or we could call it Christ consciousness. And so, when all the forms fall away, and you experience this immense pain and suffering, and you're scared to hell, that just means that you have come so close to Christ that He can kiss you. And remind you that after the crucifixion comes the resurrection, always.